A very warm welcome to 1000 PS TV. This really is a sensation here at Intermot. This is the Honda WN7, and the Honda WN7 is Honda's first electric motorcycle. And standing here with me is a guy who has already ridden it, Philippe from Honda Germany, which I think is absolutely fantastic that you have already ridden it. Because for me personally, I am not completely deep into this whole electric topic yet. I kind of follow it on the sidelines. But I am a huge Honda fan, and I have to say that for me, looks are always very important. And visually, I think they have done an incredibly beautiful job with it. And with Honda, I have experienced the very highest quality for decades now. So I assume that if they bring out an electric motorcycle, it will also work really well. Maybe I should briefly say this up front. There are two versions. One is A1, so 15 horsepower, and the other one is A2. That one then has 24 horsepower, but the important thing is that it has a peak output of 68 horsepower. So it can briefly unleash a real 68 horsepower, and that is of course very, very impressive for the A2 class. And what I also find great, especially for the A2 class, is that even though it is quite a substantial electric motorcycle with 211 kilos, we are not talking about a lump, that is actually a very reasonable weight. And maybe I am allowed to briefly say this because I am proud that I know it. We have a battery with 9.3 kilowatt hours, which gives a range of around 130 to 140 kilometers. And now, of course, there will be people, real internal combustion freaks, who say a range of 130 to 140 kilometers is nothing at all. But I think for what the average rider does, that is actually not bad at all, right?
Yes, for what it is designed to do, it is mainly built for urban use. So this is the ideal commuter vehicle, and 140 kilometers is perfect for that because you can easily manage riding to and from work for several days during the week. This is not a machine meant for going on long tours. This is Honda's starting point, a pure commuter vehicle. And let's see what happens next, because for us, it is also completely new. This is the first time we actually have an electric motorcycle standing in front of us. And as you said, I have already ridden the thing. I am one of the few lucky ones who were allowed to ride it. And the riding feel, more important than these 68 horsepower, are actually the 100 Newton meters that are available right from the start. And you really notice that. You set off and the bike simply accelerates without interruption in a way you have hardly ever experienced before. All the way through, it just keeps pulling. The motorcycle is very, very easy to ride. As you said, 211 kilos, I think it is 217 kilos, which is light for an electric motorcycle with a battery like that inside. And you can feel that as well. It is very easy to handle. In corners, it turns in beautifully.
That is great that you say that, because that was exactly one point for me. I have already ridden a few electric motorcycles, and some of them were very top heavy, although they were also heavier overall. One of them had, I think, around 270 kilos. And there, despite my general skepticism, I was actually quite positive overall and thought, okay, this really works pretty well. The only thing I was not very happy with was the turn-in, because due to that top-heavy feel, it just did not steer the way I would have liked. I did ride the Harley-Davidson Livewire though, and that one already turned in relatively well. And when I look at this now, and especially when I know how Honda usually does things, because a motorcycle that comes from Honda is always really fully developed. They always make sure that it is forgiving to ride and generally easy to handle. So I take your statement in a very positive way. I know this approach and I will definitely try it myself, and purely from how it looks standing here with the steering head angle and the way the mass is distributed, I can imagine it working very well even at a weight of 211 or 217 kilos. That really is not much. Now, one very important question apart from that, and I absolutely must not forget this, I am a real fan of single-sided swing arms. On that CB1000 back then, that was unbelievably beautiful. That single-sided swing arm together with the wheel, this reminds me of that a bit at the rear. I also find the belt drive very likable for this type of drivetrain. And what really completely draws me in is just how unbelievably clean this motorcycle is. It is insanely clean. You hardly see any cables, hardly any hoses. So from that perspective, it really looks very, very premium. But there are two variants. And with these two variants, A1 and A2, What surprises me a little is this. On the A1 variant, I have exactly the same hardware. I also have the same weight. I just have 15 horsepower, and that is controlled purely via software.
Exactly. There are two variants, one with 11 kilowatts and one with 18 kilowatts, I believe. It is completely the same motorcycle, just limited via software to fit the A1 license class. As we have also learned, it is not possible to offer both variants in a single motorcycle because that would be illegal, just like you are not allowed to upgrade a 125 or a scooter from A1 to A2. You are not allowed to add more power afterward. And that is why Honda made a very conscious decision to offer these two separate variants. But I would assume that even this 11 kilowatt version is absolutely fantastic to ride.
I think it is great. I actually really welcome it. A warm welcome to this electric motorcycle as well. I think it is fantastic. And what I would be interested in now is this. I know that looking into the future is always difficult and always a bit delicate. And usually you are not allowed to say much. But I assume that if it is standing here like this, looking so cool and so fully developed, then this will not be Honda's last electric motorcycle.
This will definitely not be the last electric motorcycle. I still cannot say anything specific about what the future will bring. Some prototypes and design studies have already been shown, and this path simply has to be taken. The development process and this motorcycle is basically the first result as a fully finished motorcycle. And we will simply continue to develop it further and present additional models. First of all, let's also see what this motorcycle itself brings. Electric motorcycles are a difficult market. They had a boom around the years 2022 and 2023. We are continuing to develop things and we will see what happens. So I would say for the people who are interested, the important thing is that you can see Honda standing behind it.
Yes, that is great. It is really very slim. I have a genuinely pleasant knee grip. I have an active foot peg position, so I can really imagine very well how this thing marches into a corner. I think that is fantastic. And because I just pressed that button here, that is also something I really like a lot. We have two charging options. On the one hand, we can charge it from a regular household socket, and then it does take a few hours until it is fully charged. But we also have fast charging. That means in 30 minutes, I am up to 80%. And most of these charging stations, I almost said fuel pumps, these power stations usually have fast chargers anyway. So in that sense, with this machine, I am not really restricted. Wherever there is such a station, I just cannot call it anything else. I can simply plug it in there.
So as I said, it is basically intended for urban use, for short commuting distances. But honestly, you can also ride longer distances with it. Because after 140 kilometers, speaking for myself, after 140 kilometers, I take a break anyway. 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour. And then you have charged back up from 20 to 80% and can go another 80 to 100 kilometers. That would definitely work. I think the charging network in Germany still definitely has room for improvement, the whole infrastructure. Other countries are already a step ahead there, especially the Nordic countries and the Netherlands. I recently rode through the Netherlands again, and you can already see that 60 to 70% of the cars there are electric, and they also have the infrastructure to support that. Germany, I think, is still lagging a bit behind, but things are changing right now. And if this continues to develop, then you can certainly do longer tours with this motorcycle as well, if you have multiple opportunities to recharge it back up to 80% in half an hour.
Since this electric motor is liquid cooled, which I believe is still relatively rare, that electric motors are liquid cooled. I read that it is supposed to be especially smooth running and free of vibrations. What were your impressions of that during the test ride?
The motorcycle is completely calm. I did not notice any vibrations at all. It is just like with an electric car. You have this instant acceleration, immediate acceleration from zero. So when you twist the throttle from zero, you really feel how it pushes your brain backward.
It is probably the case that for the electric market, which is already having a hard time, this might be the boost it needs, that a truly major manufacturer is now bringing a vehicle like this to market. Philipp, thank you very, very much. I am curious about next year, and then we will already know how this motorcycle has performed in terms of sales. And to you guys, I would also like to say thank you very, very much for your attention. Please write to us in the comments below what you think in general about the topic of electric mobility in motorcycles, what you think of this Honda WN7, and whether you might consider it or whether it is definitely not an option for you. All right then, stay loyal to us, subscribe to the channel. Bye and see you next time.